Hello, gorgeous ones. Welcome back to the Elevate Your Life podcast. I'm your host, Evie. I am life and business coach, and I'm so excited to be back with another beautiful solo episode. And I hope you're doing so well. Thanks as always for tuning in. Hello if you're watching over on YouTube. Hello, good morning. Got my cup of tea and hitting record, and we are ready to go. Fired up, feeling really good today. It's a Tuesday on the time of recording this, which is my business day, my working day. For those of you who don't know my backstory, but I have a 10-month-old, almost 11-month-old little girl, Blake Willow, and I am basically a full-time mama as well as running my coaching business alongside this. And yeah, it's so fun. It means that life is really full, and it's really full, but it's all the things that I really love and what are really aligned to me and my values. And I think that's really important to come back to time and time again, regardless of what stage of life you're in or business or not. I think alignment is huge, right? And it gives you that beautiful sense of deep fulfillment and happiness and authenticity, like living a life that's true to you. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I'm going down a completely different rabbit hole than what I was going to talk about today, but I am here on a Tuesday. It's a beautiful spring morning here in Auckland, New Zealand, where I live, and it's warming up, the sun is shining, and it feels it's September, so we're also in that Virgo energy, which I'm loving, and just getting stuff done and I guess coming out of the shell, coming out of the winter season and into spring, which is really exciting. And I think it's always one of my favorite times of year. So I hope you are doing so well too. And I hope that you're having a wonderful week. And I hope that this podcast episode is a goodie. I hope this is a really nice reminder. So I wanted to take this time to talk to you about the messiness of life, the messiness of business, and how you can really embrace that and how it's going to really support you. So as always, I'm going to try and talk to this topic, but blend it into areas of your life, into areas of your business as well. So regardless, I know, if you have a business or not, I know that, some of my longtime listeners, were following me along from purely in my life coaching days, which I still offer, by the way, if you're interested in high level one-to-one life coaching. All the links are in the show notes to come have a chat with me about it. There's obviously a free conversation, free chat, no obligations, or send me a DM on Instagram, of course, as well. Anyway, I know so many of you are following along and listening in as a long-time listener there from and you perhaps don't have your own business. And so I want to blend this topic and talk to this topic around this wider concept, because I really believe that it can apply to both and it'll help you in both. So I want to talk about embracing the messiness. So backstory to this was I was in conversation with a few clients recently. One client that I've done a one-off business strategy call with, it's basically a business intensive, which is so fun. I'm going to be releasing a few more of those spots in the next little while, so stay tuned for those if you're keen. And also a couple of girls in my mastermind experience, and they were sharing this story with me of that, so much of business behind the scenes can feel really messy. And I think sometimes we are nervous that it's going to appear messy from the outside, or that, our community, our clients are somehow going to see that we don't have our shit all together, or that, I don't know, they're going to see the mess and it's going to repel them in some way. And I want to say that, I'm going to speak to this in lots of different parts. Firstly is that almost always it's never going to appear messy from the outside. It won't look like that from a client point of view, from a customer point of view. And so, the fact that you're nervous about that is totally okay. It's you being human, right? But the very fact that you are nervous means that it's not going to appear that way in any way. But it can feel messy behind the scenes for you as the business owner. The other thing I wanted to share here though is that even if, I want to challenge you on that viewpoint or that nervousness of what if it looks messy or comes across messy from the outside? for my clients, for my customers, for my community, well, I want to lovingly challenge you there and say, does that really matter? And could that actually be your secret sauce? And could that actually be you embracing your humanness? And could that actually be one of those things that actually magnetizes your clients and your customers to you instead of repel them away? What if they want to see more of the human that you are? What if they want to see more of that mess, that real life behind the scenes, come in the mud with me, let's wade through it together type of stuff? And I think that there's some wonderful stuff in there for you. So if that's like, oh, that feels icky, nervous, if that's like triggering you in some way, or you feel some resistance there, then I would encourage you to lean into that. How can you embrace that even more? And the same thing applies in life. You know, I feel like there's something internal in so many of us that, you know, this internal dialogue that goes on. But then I also feel like it's reinforced by some of societal's conditioning and messaging and things like that around, you know, the quote unquote perfect life, and, you know, to look perfect, to be perfect, for your house to be perfect, for your business to be perfect, for your relationships, whatever it might be. And what if there's a beautiful lesson in all of this to really embrace the messiness of life and to embrace the messiness of business and the messiness that it is to be human? And actually, isn't that the thing that connects us all? I'm sure you guys know that vulnerability is one of those beautiful things that connects us all, is that when we see the human, when they let down their walls, when they share the realities and the behind the scenes stuff, then it makes you see them and connect to that person even more on a deeper level. You resonate with them. You're like, oh, like they navigate that stuff too, just like me. Or, hey, their business looks a bit messy behind the scenes as well. Oh, maybe that's okay for me to do that too. Or, you know, maybe they've got washing in their lounge and you come over and they haven't put away some stuff, or there's some clean dishes that are just drying on the kitchen bench, or whatever it might be. Like, maybe that's okay, and maybe that's more than okay. In fact, it's, you know, if we were to do that and show that and embrace that, maybe it gives other people permission to do that. And I feel like if you listen to the Strengths Finders, so the Clifton Strengths podcast recently that I did with Jess Connolly, you'll hear that responsibility is one of my core strengths. It's pretty up there. It's in my top 5. And it means that we do things with excellence. And, well, Jess explains it a whole lot better than I do. So go have a listen to that podcast episode if you're interested. But anyway, we have had wonderful conversations about this recently, about actually, I think doing things with excellence is an amazing thing. And there's sometimes this notion of like, oh, there's this issue with perfectionism, right? Of like, you don't need to be perfect. And, you know, perfectionism is just fair with high heels on, and it's wobbles. And I've absolutely talked to that as well in the past. And I get that, because perfectionism can hold us back and it can keep us stagnant, because especially in a business sense, it's like, oh, but it has to be perfect before I hit post or publish, or I release that podcast episode, or I spend hours finessing and editing and making it look pretty and amazing, or maybe I spend ages editing my podcast because I can't have any bloopers or any mistakes or any ums or ahs or whatever it might be. And, you know, maybe our program or our offers, we spend ages finessing and tweaking and perfecting, quote unquote, that we don't take action and we don't show up. And it's a huge disservice to ourselves and our communities, for our clients, for everything, right? But I also see the other side is that I think we should be striving for excellence. I think that, you know, there's some of us who are so hardwired for that, and that is obviously one of my strengths, and I'm sure some of you as well, if you've done the Clifton Strengths, you might have this in your strengths as well. And that's actually a wonderful thing, and we should celebrate that and own that. But what I've learned through that is that not everything has to be done to that extent, to be done with complete excellence, and you choose what's most important for you there. And also, allow yourself to feel messy. Allow yourself to be in the messiness of growth, because growth is always messy. Being human is always messy. Business in the building stages is going to be messy. And I think that is just a fact. That is something just to adopt, to claim, to embrace, to own. Because if we don't, I think it's actually just going to lead you to a whole lot of heartache and feeling like we're not enoughness, or we can compare to other people and we see their shiny, polished, finished version, or we see the pretty post on Instagram, or they're telling us these success stories and testimonials and all of these things, which is amazing, right? And you should do that. But sometimes if we don't see the messy side, or if we don't get behind the scenes and see the realities of it, and not always, we're not going to see this with everyone in every business, but I think there is so much value in seeing it and owning it. And so if I come back to those conversations that we were having with some of my mastermind girls, they were saying, hey, like, I loved this piece of content that you shared, or I loved that podcast episode that you did. And because we're in this beautiful sacred space and everyone is open to sharing and being fully seen in their authentic magic and, in the experiences that they're experiencing in their lives and their businesses, then we have this beautiful opportunity to see the realities of it all. So for example, it might be that you can be like, oh, I was a bit nervous about sharing that piece of content, or oh, I actually recorded that podcast episode the day before it was meant to be released, or the day of it was meant to be released, maybe. I'm sure there's always going to be some of us podcasters who, for some reason, there might be the odd episode, or from time to time, that things come out like really last minute, quote unquote. But no one sees that. The podcast still goes out. Your clients and your customers and your community is still going to listen, and they're still going to love it. And it's going to be amazing. But maybe the steps that led up to that point felt so messy, felt rushed, felt like you didn't have your shit together, or felt like you were disorganized, or something like that, right? But that's the reality of life and business, and it happens to us all. I don't think there's anyone who's exempt from this, right? And so, yes, absolutely, I'm a huge fan of structure and routine and using project management tools and planning ahead and being strategic. Yes, amazing. And I think that's going to really support you. But also embracing the messiness, embracing the uncertainty of life and business. And that is just a fact that we can't control it. And so if we try to control it, if we try to have everything quote unquote perfect, our ducks all in a row, things organized and planned out to a T ahead of time, then it's just going to cause us so much heartache, so much stress, so much pressure, and possibly lead to burnout, and possibly lead to feeling really unfulfilled in the work that you're doing. And so, these beautiful mastermind girls had that experience and opportunity, because they were in that beautiful space, to see and hear from, to reflect it back from an outsider's point of view. Hey, I loved that episode. It was so good, and I loved this, and it sounded great, and you're such a great podcaster and interviewer, and it was amazing. And also to have that experience of like, oh, thank you so much, and I'm really receiving that. But also, this is how it felt for me when I was doing it, or planning out that episode, or whatever it might be. And so we had this beautiful opportunity to witness both sides of it. And it just really demonstrated this point, is that it can feel messy and uncertain and wobbly and all of the things behind the scenes, but often it doesn't seem that way or appear that way from the outsider's point of view, from your client and customer's journey. And that's great, right? And that's a wonderful thing. And also lessons in both of that, to be like, oh, cool. So she also experiences that messiness. Oh, she's also human. And from time to time, things also get bumped down the list because other things take our time and our attention or our priorities. And that's okay. And that sometimes it's all right to record the podcast episode just before it's about to be released. Totally fine. Your business is not going to break. Your clients are not going to suddenly think that you're the worst coach in the world. No way, because I'm sure that you are absolutely still delivering exceptional content, exceptional service to your paid clients and customers, because if you're around my world and know me or worked with me before, you'll know that, your clients are paramount. That's your number one priority before anything else that you do in your business is servicing them, because obviously that's going to be a win-win, right? You're delivering exceptional service. They're going to be returning clients, raving customers, give you gorgeous reviews and testimonials, refer their friends, etc., etc. And so obviously it's going to really support you. But that is the crux, like that is your bread and butter, that is your business, right? Is servicing your people. And so that should always be your priority, absolutely. And then content, and then things like cash and sales and other things in your business. That's another story for another podcast episode. But yeah, just coming back to the point that people are not going to see it, so it's okay. Embrace the messiness. It will feel messy, and growth, building, growing, it really does require messiness. It feels messy. It can feel uncomfortable. It can feel uncertain. It can feel, you can feel unsure, and that's okay. And it's a part of the journey. Like if it wasn't that way, then we wouldn't probably be growing, right? We would be holding still. We would be in that maintenance kind of phase of our life or our business, or doing the doing and just keeping things going, but we wouldn't be growing and building. And if you're here with me, if you're here listening to this podcast and you've got this far through into the podcast episode, then you're absolutely committed to a full life. A life of authenticity, of fulfillment, deep fulfillment, of passion, of purpose, of creating impact with your soul's work, with your soul business, and living a life, regardless of the business piece, making the impact in your own personal world, in the lives that you touch, and who you are as a person, regardless of if it's a business or not. I mean impact by you being you and sharing your beautiful gifts with the world, whatever that looks like for you. And so if you're here listening to this, then you are committed to your growth and your evolution and up-leveling, and it doesn't always mean that it's like chasing next, no way. But you are committed to your evolution and your growth, and I think that's a wonderful thing. And yeah, like if we're not growing and changing and evolving, then we're not really living, right? I think Tony Robbins shares a quote similar to that around, it's all about growing and evolving as a human, and if you're not, then you'll feel really dead inside. And that we need that sense of progress. We need that sense of achievement and doing things and moving towards a greater goal or something. It doesn't necessarily need to be some external thing or some ticking boxes in any way, but we do need to feel like we're growing and progressing as a human in so many different areas of our lives, regardless of if it's business or not. And so that's really important to us, and that's really important to humans, full stop. And so, yeah, if you're here listening to it, that means that you're committed to that. And I think that in doing so, that means that we need to be okay with it feeling a bit uncomfortable from time to time. That means that we need to be okay with it not looking all perfect and structured and planned and organized and everything running absolutely smoothly behind the scenes in our businesses. It needs to be, we need to embrace that feeling of messiness, because it is a fact. And the sooner you embrace it and own it, the sooner you set yourself free, like from that mental cage of perfectionism and organization and pressure and everything having to be tickety-boo. And I want to say it's almost not achievable. Like it's almost, I think it's probably not achievable. Not in every single part of our lives and not in every single part of our businesses all of the time. We can have some areas of our lives and our businesses that are ticking over really nicely, and we've got processes and systems in place, or in our businesses, or we've done some work and some growth in an area of our lives, and that's feeling a whole lot better and and it is more about enjoying it and maintaining that and things like that. But there'll be other areas of our lives or other parts of the business that will feel messy because it's a new thing, or it's a new program or skill or something that you're wanting to launch or bring out, or an area of your life that you're wanting to work on. And so, it's going to feel messy. It's going to feel messy. So this is your loving nudge. I'm going to lovingly challenge you here to, yes, strive for excellence. Yes, be the best coach, service provider that you could possibly be. Created a beautiful, abundant, profitable, sustainable, impactful, meaningful business. Absolutely. And in your lives, creating a rich, deep, fulfilling, heart expanding life for yourself. Absolutely. And strive for that, but also know that it's not always perfect. Perfection doesn't exist. Embracing the messiness, embracing the beginner's mindset, embracing the growth journey, that in between the messiness, the doing, the journey, embracing that it's not always going to feel like rainbows and butterflies. It's not going to look all put together and structured and okay and organized and everything, quote unquote perfect. It's just not. And that's okay. And it is no reason to stop. It's no reason to slow down. It's no reason to stop and not put yourself out there or not go for the things that you really want. That's not a reason to not hit record, not hit publish, not launch your program or your offer, not sell your services. And in your life, it's not a permission to not show up, to retreat back, to hide away, to not be the fullest expression of yourself. It's about embracing that, knowing that we all, everyone, every single human experiences messiness from time to time in their lives and in their businesses. Everyone does. And that is just a part of being human. And so the sooner that you embrace it and adopt it and welcome it in, the sooner you'll set yourself free and not be in that mental cage of trying to work towards perfectionism that just doesn't exist. And also, you're welcoming in that beautiful opportunity to connect with your humans, your people, in your relationships, in your community, in your businesses, with your clients, more and more, because we are all human. And that vulnerability, that being okay with the messiness and sharing your humanness is a huge part of how you're going to magnetize your beautiful customers and clients and people. It's how you deepen those connections and relationships that you have in your life. It's when we are brave enough to share our vulnerability, because vulnerability is strength. Vulnerability is the thing that connects us all. And I'm not saying that you need to be vulnerable with absolutely everyone, with everything in your life. Absolutely not. You need to feel okay to share that and be, choose those things really strategically, really carefully about what you share and who you share those with. Another conversation, another podcast episode probably. But absolutely start leaning into perhaps sharing a little bit more, perhaps sharing a little bit more of that behind the scenes, a little bit more of the messiness, and allowing yourself just to drop that expectation of perfectionism, of everything put together, of everything, absolutely polished and whatever the words are. I feel like I'm going in circles here. Perfectionism, all of that stuff, right? Just dropping those expectations, those high standards, and just allowing yourself to be human, because it'll just be so much more enjoyable. It'll be so much more rich. It'll be so much more fulfilling, and it'll be way better for your business as well. So it is an absolute win-win scenario here. Win-win scenario. So I would love to leave you with this question of how and in what parts of your life or what parts of your business or both can you embrace the messiness a little bit more? How can you embrace more of your humanness? How can you bring that more into your business and into your community perhaps? How can you share the realness, the rawness, and be okay with growth and building, feeling messy and uncertain and unsure and wobbly, and that being okay? In fact, that being the thing that's going to support you to grow even more. Beautiful. I would love to hear your responses. I would love to hear your feedback. If you are watching here over on YouTube, hi, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, comment below. I would love to hear what are the things that you are going to be starting to embrace. Where are you embracing more of that messiness, and how can you share that more with others? And if you are listening on the podcast on audio form, wherever you listen to podcasts, would love for you to reach out on Instagram, probably the best way to connect, and send me a DM or comment on the post that's regarding this podcast episode on my feed. And I would love to hear your version of messiness and where you're leaning into that to embrace it more. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that was so helpful. And yeah, I'll be back soon with some more beautiful podcast episodes. So big love from me.